welcome to Dear Katie, the podcast that amplifies courageous voices and real stories of resilience, healing, and hope after trauma. Inspired by the many letters Katie has received over the last 20 years, each week she interviews survivors, healers, and experts to honor their stories and explore the many paths to healing and hope. Before we begin, please know, many episodes of Dear Katie cover sensitive topics related to sexual violence, trauma, and recovery. Listen with care and take the space you need to take care of yourself. Your well-being is what matters most. Now, let's join Katie and today's guest for a conversation that matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Katie Koestner, and the founder and director at Take Back the Night. I also am a survivor, and it has been such an amazing journey interviewing all of the incredible talent, strong survivors, authors, experts, and today is going to be no different. I know all of you are going to adore learning more about Farhan, and I will just read a little bit about him and then let him tell you a lot more. So remember, push pause at any time if you need to take a break or get some fresh air and come back. We'll be right here where you left off. So Farhan Manjiyani is based in Austin, Texas for the last 10 years, and he's married to his incredible wife, and they have a little dog, Luna. Professionally, he runs a competitive pricing strategy company. I think it's called Grafana Labs, and he's also the founder of F13I Consulting, and maybe we can learn more about that. But I personally like this last part. His latest short-term goal is perfecting the butter chicken recipe. He has done 2 decades of healing from his own childhood sexual abuse and has become a public advocate for empowering male survivors, especially South Asian men, to share their stories, seek support, and directly challenge cultural taboos, as well as harmful expectations around masculinity. He's a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin and has scaled programs nationally and internationally for the Islami institutions, which, again, I'd love to hear more about that, and as well as MUPPIs, which is the Muslim Urban Professionals Group. So welcome, Farhan. We are delighted to have you.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess, though, I would go back. I know you've been in Austin for quite some time. Where is that where you were born, or where are you from originally?
Yeah, great question. So I was born in LA, actually, but I spent most of my life in a little town outside Memphis, Tennessee. So I grew up in Tennessee for the majority of my years and then went out to Austin for college. And that's where I've mostly stayed after that.
Yeah, Austin's a real cool town. I've been there to speak sometimes, but not really enough to get to know it that well. But everyone seems to love it who lives there. So I'm sure it's the same for you and your wife. And so when you said born in LA, and how long were you there? Just a short while, or?
Yeah, super short. I believe 1.5, maybe 2 is when we actually ended up moving. So I grew up most of my life like in the South.
Okay. And Tennessee is quite different than Texas too, I think, in terms of the culture and the flavors. But so when you were in Tennessee, that must have been where you did all of your like middle school, all high school, and then college was when you started into Texas?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So I guess I can't wait to learn more about butter chicken and all these organizations and all your work. But I guess, I think it's important that, our listeners understand your survivorship and maybe whatever you'd like to share about what you went through.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start there, and we'll get to everything else. I think the big piece for me is I was sexually assaulted when I was 10 years old. And it was from a summer camp counselor. It was not during the summer camp, but it was right after. And I carried that, for about 20 years. I never talked about it. I didn't bring it up with my mom. I didn't bring it up with relationships with friends. I had created this story that it doesn't affect me. And that story led to, it never happened until actually fairly recently, back in March. is when it actually came out, when I was going through an emotional healing program, and I started to see the patterns of control, specifically, and me wanting to exert control in my life today because I was out of control when I was 10.
Yeah, you didn't have control or power, and that's so hard. I mean, as young as 10, we've had some survivors of, childhood situations, but not one exactly like yours, and especially as a male, and especially, as an Asian male, and all those things. I think if we could talk about maybe your upbringing and your culture and your understanding of being a man, and how maybe that layered in the complexity of healing. Pick any of
Yeah,
those one you
absolutely.
talk about.
Yeah, so I went back in my own identity back and forth a lot growing up of, am I an American? Am I a Muslim? Am I a Muslim American, right? Like which one goes first? All these different things, right? Even like we were talking about name pronunciation at the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Like that was actually also a journey for me where growing up, I actually, I didn't correct people around my name. I tried to find nicknames, right, and embrace like kind of the Americanizing my name a little bit more to make it easier for people. I felt like a burden on others. And then it wasn't until about college that really switched. Really in high school, I think is when it started. And then college, it really flourished of actually taking pride in my culture, in my background, in my religion. And so now I can finally, I'm at the point where I can share that, hey, I'm an Ismaili Muslim. It's a denomination of Shia, and it's a beautiful thing. In fact, it's been a huge advantage in my own life. And as a South Asian, generally, that's very counterculture. Being the children of immigrants, being first generation myself, what was consistently instilled in me growing up is keep your head down, right? Don't attract unwanted attention. And it was really living from this fear consistently, right? Of, hey, this country wasn't built for us. Like we are still quote unquote guests or visitors in this country. And if we don't, follow certain rules or practices, we're going to be sent back. And it's less about laws in that sense. And it's more around your own worthiness of like what is actually acceptable for you and okay to do. And culturally, it's not just assault, but even something as simple as like who you marry, how you marry. Dating is not a thing, in my culture and community. Like when I met my wife and we wanted to move in together, I remember telling my mom, and her first response, this is 5 years ago now, was, well, I'm just going to tell people that you're engaged, right? Because that's the only way this is acceptable. And that's where we started, and so there was a big journey to even like call myself a survivor, right? Like that took a lot of courage, and as actually family were the people that I told last in my entire journey.
That's so hard. I think, you always assume that family is going to be the ones to support you with unconditional love, and all those layers you just described of judgment and assumptions and expectations. They sound just really hard to get through. And then you're starting out with all the surrounding people in your school who are questioning, your identity and who you were and what you stand for. And oh my goodness, so I can't even imagine struggling through all of that. When you said that the counselor who did this, it happened after the camp. So how, just out of curiosity, nothing happened while you were there at the camp and it was after. So I think that's also really interesting. Was it at like a local, like you could get there easily, or where was the camp located?
Oh yeah, great question. So this was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And so as an Ismaili Muslim, again, it's a denomination of Shia, we have actually a ton of programming in our culture and our community growing up. And so all the way from like birth, literally all the way to death, there are like programs that support. And many of those are summer camps. And so this is one for age 6 to 13 called Mosaic. And as part of that, right, I had met this counselor. You're assigned, 4 or 5 folks to one counselor. And there was an immense amount of trust that was built throughout that program, which is, of course, the purpose of part of the purpose of the program is to build, community and trust. And what was different for me is that trust was taken advantage of. And he invited me back to visit him post camp. And for me, at this age especially, that and just a little bit more about, growing up, you asked, it's like home was not where I wanted to spend a lot of time. My parents did not have a great relationship. There was consistent conflict. And so I was consistently looking for excuses, even at that age, to get out of the house. And so this summer camp being in Atlanta was like a perfect escape, right? And then every opportunity after, I was like, oh, how can I get back there, right? To go visit somebody I met or visit whatever. And so when he knew this, my counselor, and then invited me back, right? To me, I was like, yes, I get to leave again. And I ended up staying with him at his place, and that's where it ended up happening. Late that night.
Yeah, that makes total sense now, Farhan. Trying to escape the tumultuous home life is, I think it's a story we've talked about. Even, myself, I did something similar. I was always applying for every single possible opportunity or scholarship, or I lived in Japan when I was in high school for a summer, just to, that's pretty far away from Pennsylvania. So I totally hear you. It was just easier to find an excuse and not be home. So my gosh, I guess that brings me to another question. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have an older sister. Yeah, 3 years.
Okay. So, and you did, and how was, telling her, or did you tell her just recently? Can we talk about your sister for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely. So I told her actually this program that I went through on emotional intelligence, we actually ended up doing it together. That was, not planned. We actually independently found out about it and then signed up together. So that was a fun little surprise. And so as I, came to my own realization, it's like, hey, this is something I had been avoiding for so many years. And I started sharing that out loud. She was obviously in that group. And so that was my point of sharing with my sister. And that was a huge moment for us in our relationship, because part of what we had always been navigating is she's 3 years older than me. And so as she was, I entered one life phase, she was leaving. I'm entering high school, she's graduating high school. I'm entering college, she's graduating college. And it wasn't until I graduated college and I was kind of looking for that first job, she actually had just gotten laid off. And then for the first time for me, it felt like, oh, we're doing the same things in life, and that actually brought us much closer than it had before. And there was some healing that needed to happen. And she was very much as you can imagine, if parents are not getting along together, often the older sibling becomes that parent, that pseudo parent stepping in, right? So she was the one who took care of me. She was the one who and very much was mom in a lot of ways. And that's not something she asked for, especially at 13, 14, 15 years old, and what that took away from her for her life. And so that created a drift, between us. And so for me to share that, this experience, it was beautiful and so many emotions. It was tough to tell her. It was scary to tell her. It was beautiful that I told her because of the love that I received, and to hold space for how she felt, and coming to terms again as that second mom, that she also felt guilt, that she didn't recognize, right, what had happened to me at 10 years old. Now we're talking about it 20 years later, that she was a protector in many ways, but not a protector in this case, right? Not a protector when it, quote unquote, really mattered. And what that said, about her and her role as a protector, and the blame that she put on herself, right? If I wasn't resentful about the parent role I played in your life, then I would have been, this protector. And we got to just have that conversation and let her know that, hey, despite you, quote unquote, not protecting me, you are still a safe space for me. And just getting to have that conversation, and what's opened up in our relationship because of that has been so powerful and beautiful.
I can hear that in your voice too. And out of curiosity, is she living near you? Does she have a partner and kids?
She does not live near me. She lives in Chicago. I live in Austin, Texas.
Right.
And she doesn't have a partner currently.
Yeah, I was, sometimes I think, as we get older and we then reflect on things that happened as a child, there's a lot that gets triggered when you have a partner and if you have kids, right? Like then you're revisiting those same ages as an adult that when you were going through so much. And I think it just ladles on the trauma again. It was just really hard.
Totally.
But I'm really amazed. So I guess now my next thought is, what do you think prompted you finally to do this self-work?
Yeah, great question. What prompted the self-work, I think, is a slightly different answer than how did this realization come about? And so that I think I'll actually focus on that one. And the beauty was it was the patterns, actually observing the patterns, hearing someone else's story, who is another male who was sexually assaulted, and him recapping the patterns of his own life. And they looked different than mine, but they were so similar in kind of the payoff, right? So for him, what he had shared was being sexually assaulted, what that led to as a child also, what that led to was intimacy issues in his relationship, specifically an addiction to pornography had developed, and then high levels of shame and blame for himself, right, on what it means to be addicted to pornography and what type of person he is because of that. And that in turn, he brought that to his relationship by exerting control. And that is over, others and just the situation. And that's actually the part that stood out to me the most, is this control. For me, it looked slightly different, but my version of control was being right in conversations. It didn't matter if we were talking about color of ice cream, hot versus cold, it didn't matter. I knew that if I was having a conversation, I felt a deep intrinsic need to be right in the conversation, to hear the words "you are right" from the other person. I would fight and fight and fight until I got that. And I never knew why, right? I never knew why I had so much of this anger and resentment. I thought it was, I was actually talking to my mom about this yesterday. Her perspective was, I always assumed it came from your dad, right? In your relationship with your dad, because he was not really ever there for me growing up. And so she thought it was resentment towards that. I thought it was my issues with my parents. But hearing his story actually made me reflect. And then during the program, the prompt was, or the question was, what happened around 5 to 10 years old, right? Because during 5 to 10 years old, what goes in at that age actually ends up influencing the rest of your life. And that's when it clicked to me. I started doing the math of, oh shit, 2006, what year is it? Damn, 10 years old, this thing happened. And I had been ignoring that thing for so long, telling myself that it didn't affect me. But now look at this whole story. It's affecting everything here and now. And that shifted.
Watershed, truly. And now I'm thinking to go be, nearly, I guess, 30-ish, or no, you were late 20s when you did this whole process, right?
No, so this is actually 3 months ago. And so it's actually very recent. So
maybe oh my God, this is so recent for you.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. I'm just amazed that you're ready to talk to me and be on the podcast too. Awesome. Well, but I mean, I sense how bright you are and how talented. So I'm sure like you've always been fast tracked in life around anything. It sounds like you can just think through very clearly. And I guess that's where I'm like headed with my next thought is, when someone seems to have it all together and is just bright and talented, it's sometimes, I think, more unbelievable. Like, how could you not know this thing? Like, how could you bury this so well when your brain is so beautifully fast and like adroit at so many things that, like, I think it blows a lot of people's mind to have a really smart, especially even a man, I would say, like, not acknowledge this. But it's complicated. I mean, I guess, what are your thoughts on that aspect?
There's so much there of, I think that
you're so smart, Farhan. Like, I think it's easy to think, like, how could you ignore the obvious elephant, right? But it's possible, and I think that's what trauma does. And a lot of people who haven't been through it wouldn't understand that. But maybe you give it a shot. Like, talk to the people who needs convincing. Like, how can one bury this big thing?
Yeah, look, the brain is incredible, right, in protecting you. And when you have these like strong desires or urges, like, again, for me, it was control. When you have this anger, when you have this self-talk, whatever it looks like for you, but when you can't really explain it, you don't know why it's there, and you don't see underneath it, right? Like, that's really the question to be asking, and that's ultimately, now reflecting back, what pointed to, like, hey, there is something actually there. And the shame and guilt that I felt in the moment, right, of like, what am I? Like, you say these such kind words to me now, like, oh, you're so sharp, this, that, and the other. That isn't what I was thinking when I was being assaulted, right? Or even after, for years later, I was thinking, like, how could you be so stupid, right? How could you not see the signs? How could you, this, that, and the other is just going to war on myself for not recognizing. And in some ways, like, that's like, not in some ways, like, I actually ended up compensating for that by keeping parts of myself locked in, right? So other people don't notice because that's all I let them see. And I had been playing that game. I had perfected that game for so many years of like, this is my mask at work. This is my mask with these friends. This is my mask even with my own partner, right? There were parts of her, parts of me that I wasn't letting her access. She could only see, what I deemed she was trustworthy enough for her to see. And again, it was all a trauma response to keep me safe at the end of the day, because I believed that, you could just keep the bad things out. What I didn't realize until much later is you can't just keep the bad things out. When you close off your heart to bad, you also close it off to good. The love that I've received, the celebration, for myself and others, right? Like, I became numb to all of it. It wasn't like I could just say, oh yeah, the bad things, I won't let them affect me, but the good things I will. Like, it's not how, when you put a cage on your heart, it unfortunately doesn't work that way, where you can just kind of selectively let one thing in. And what drove that for me is my definition of masculinity and my relationship with masculinity, of what does it mean to have any sort of catharsis? What does it mean to be emotional? Like, I had labeled these things in this box of like, oh, these are all bad things, right? Like, this is not what, no one will want you. If you do talk about your feelings all the time, or people see how broken or scarred you really are, you will actually be rejected, not only by your partner and others. And I had to set that notion down, right, to be able to actually totally, let people in. And I'll say that's why I'm talking about this now. It was because as I've continued to share my story and my journey, it has been incredible, the response. And it's just pure love. Like, the amount of love I physically feel now is so much more than before. And it's not people are loving me more now. It's that I'm actually connected into my heart in a way that I never have been before.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Farhan. And I guess I want to go back to one more point that
Sure.
well, you made many good points, but I want to talk a little bit more about also like that locking it up and being a I'll say perfectionist and always
Yeah.
right. And here's like when I'm imagining this whole, like, you're a superhero for a lot of things all your life, right? You got through probably racism and hate and all this other stuff.
Tons.
And you run and you're like, tons of it. And you survived all of that. Then you go to college and you're like founding all these groups and like, connecting and all this amazing work. And then I'm wondering, like, that part when you said, you didn't want to blame yourself for being stupid, right? And I'm curious, like, have you come to a place where you realize you weren't stupid? And has there been, you said overwhelming love, I guess. And then one more kind of related question is, if your partner, your wife, married you not knowing this part of you, right? I assume you hadn't told her you were married. How did that, if you're comfortable, like, how did that coming to terms with that vulnerable part of yourself with her thinking of you as superhero, did she still think you as a superhero despite that past trauma? You know what I mean? If that makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Like, she didn't feel betrayed, like, oh no, I thought I had this superhero and now I have this guy with baggage. And I hate to say it that way, but many survivors get that. They're like, why are you telling me about this now? Why did you deceive me? Why did you not love me enough? You can imagine all the lines that are out there that people have said to other survivors.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It was incredible. Her response was incredible. And yes, I had fears on how she would think about me, how she would potentially judge me. I had fear and anxiety about that. Absolutely. Fear that she would reject me. And we have been connected in a way that we never have been before. And what's opened up in our relationship is like an even deeper alignment, because her vision actually for the world is ending domestic violence, and my vision is ending sexual assault. And they so beautifully come together, and there's a ton of overlap, right, in survivors of one or the other. And getting to understand why it's meaningful for her and then why it's meaningful for me. So when I shared all of me, it was actually the opposite response with her. Is there was even more love, because she felt that she always could sense there is a part of me that I wasn't letting her in. And she had been making up stories about what that meant about her, right? Of like how much I trusted her, how trustworthy she was, all these different things, right? That she had never shared with me. And granted, I was sourcing that from her, right? Because I was holding back, something in our relationship.
Remember also you were saying like you had to be right? I have a partner who has to be right too. And it's very, very frustrating because you like nailed it so well. So I guess, was she astonished that all of a sudden you could be wrong sometimes? I mean, you get that you get that in relationship world. You'll hear like the man will usually say, yep, my wife is always right all the time. I can imagine. And my partner is the same. Like, he's never wrong. I might get an apology once every 3 years for something. So it's stubbornness. But I guess, did that dynamic, was it was it different with your wife, or was she just used to you being right and now sometimes you're wrong? Like, I'm curious, like, to not to make fun of it, but I think if you go through such a big life change and you're doing all this self-examination, I'm curious, like, that vulnerability, has it played into how you communicate in an intimate way or way?
I think part of it is she's also done so much of her own work, including actually the same program that I did. She did right before me. And so now we have this shared language, if you will, right? And so a lot of we get stuck on these labels of like, oh, that's stubbornness, like you said, or whatever, right? Like now we can quickly go and, hey, what's underneath that, right? And like, oh, this is your control that's coming out. Why is that being triggered in this moment, right? Like, what did you say versus what did you actually hear, are generally not the same thing. And
Right.
Now we jump straight there. And I would say that's so helpful. It's so helpful.
Yeah. I bet it really is. Then it doesn't become a power control. It becomes like we're on the same team and let's figure this out and, grow stronger together.
Yeah, it's the phrase that we often talk about, right, and repeat in our relationship is this me versus you, or is it me and you versus the problem, right? And it should always be me and you versus the problem, but sometimes it doesn't feel that way, right? Sometimes it feels like you're making the other person the problem. And that's the opportunity of like, hey, get the feedback and then shift, right? Because this is your partner, right? Like, especially if you married this person, that's your ride or die, right? They are the ones who are consistently going to be there for everything. And so how do you want to show up in your relationship? And is that how you're actually showing up in your relationship, right? Are you choosing from the vision of what you have, for your relationship, or are you choosing from your triggers, your trauma, or your past, right? And just constantly calibrating that. And for me, what's shifted is recognizing that she used to do that work for me, right? Is that whole process of like identifying, understanding, and then explaining to me of like, hey, this is how you're showing up right now, and me not willing to admit it. Right, of like me responding with my ego of like, no, this is you, like you need to change, I am fine, I am great. And so what's shifted now is like my commitment and recommitment consistently, because it doesn't always work out, but commitment and recommitment to, no, I want to recognize myself. It's like, hey, if I'm frustrated at you right now, what is that actually because of? It's not because of you. It's not because of the dishes or this task or being late or whatever. It's not about that little thing. That there's something underneath that, and that actually has nothing to do with you, right? It's not you are a bad person, this, that, and the other, which is often how it comes across. It's like, hey, you're always late or whatever, right? That's what I often jump to. But knowing that, hey, it's actually something underneath that. And again, what does it look like to, if we're, in this metaphorical table, to reach across and bring you to my side, quote unquote, and then now we can together look at the problem on the other side, and not make my partner the problem.
Yeah, I really love what you're talking about, Farhan. I think it's a beautiful story that you are able to also share her her piece in your healing and your life. I hope that our listeners will not feel daunted if they don't have a partner like yours. But because, I think it's hard. And I like how you said it's an ongoing process of doing the work, and being real intentional about it. And I think, I know you're new to the game. It sounds like 3 months in, but, I hope that there'll be ways that you can continually refocus and renew that energy that you're putting into this. I do think that you're doing all the good stuff, though, it sounds like. I mean, is there anything else that that program sounds incredible? What else would you tell our listeners about that's been super helpful?
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. Other than butter chicken, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, everyone has the perfect partner for them. It's really like, what are you choosing to focus on, right? And you can choose to focus on, this thing about them that you like or don't like, and you can use that as the excuse to be right, and blame that, like, oh, my partner is forgetful, or my partner can't do X, Y, and Z, right? And you can hold them within that, and then you'll be right because it'll be true. And if you, again, choose from the vision of like, well, what kind of partner do you want, right? If your partner doesn't, whatever, like getting up early in the mornings and you want to get up early in the morning and go on a walk, with your partner, don't talk to them about like, hey, why do you always sleep in? But talk to them about like, what would it feel like for you to go on a walk with your partner first thing in the morning, and what the happiness that would create, the love that, you would feel that your partner got up in the morning and did that, for you, with you. Why is that important to you? Like, that's a very different conversation from like, hey, you sleep until 10 every day. Like, look, I'm missing out on life, right? Like it's just very different conversations that I've seen have very different outcomes. And it takes work, we're 5 years into our relationship and we're still learning so much. And so I would say the second thing is like, have support. We both have coaches. We're very open with our friends about what is and is not working in our relationship. It's not a secret thing because we want support, right? It's not something that it's something that we've learned. We've seen the other side of our parents who didn't share, who kept it all behind closed doors, right? And the reality was that their kids, like me, suffered, right? Because they didn't have that support. They weren't willing to, do something different. And so, yeah, I would say that support for others, like invite others in and take the feedback from them on how you're showing up. Doesn't mean you have to listen to everything they do or say, but you're getting that another perspective and be willing to be wrong at the end of the day and change your mind.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's, to me also, Farhan, it's like, I think one of the luxuries of my survivor journey is that I was able to, or I took myself all over the country into small towns and big cities and all kinds of different faith groups and levels of poverty or wealth. And so having that, it's not like I don't have a friend group exactly like that, but I feel like I have gone and sought feedback and asked questions, and being able to have heard from that many varied voices from all different cultures and experiences has really helped me personally as a survivor know that there's a million ways to live in the world, right? And
Totally.
and you can just, it's actually such a luxury, I think, when you are willing to hear and learn and soak in all of that variation. And the same as a survivor, like you're a male survivor, Muslim, and Asian, and male, all of those things. And my survivor journey is different, but there's still, like, I always say, pain is pain, hurt is hurt. And each and every one of us has the ability to have those emotions depending on what we've been through. And the feelings themselves, the feeling in essence, I think, is the same. The manifestation is, I like when you talked about like the formative 5 to 10 year group age when we're so young and learning to navigate and, our first relationships, whether it be with our parents or siblings or neighbors or church or, whatever. Those definitely have an impact. And it's really clear. I can see how you hunkered down. Like you took your survivor self, hunkered into protection. And now I feel like it sounds like you're really like this beautiful wide open rainbow of like soaking, you know what I mean? Like now you're ready. You're like, okay, I've done, and maybe it's also, maybe I could ask you, it sounds like, just reading your bio, it's like you've achieved a lot. I don't know if you feel like I've been successful so far and I love all the things I've created and done, but do you think that, like being able to be like a 30-year-old accomplished person also enabled you to say, I have the confidence now that I can look into this dark hole?
Yeah, good question. For me, I was searching for that happiness in the achievements. in the titles, salaries, the companies, the home, the whatever, right? Like hitting those, cool, checkbox, 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 got a house, checkbox, got married, checkbox, got a car I like, checkbox, like all these different things. I was searching for the happiness in that, and I assumed I would find the vision later. And what's clicked for me is the goalpost just kept moving, but I was the one moving the goalpost. The moment I got promoted into XYZ title, I didn't actually ever stop and celebrate myself. I just immediately moved on to, okay, well, the next goal is here, and then this is my gap to get to that goal. And that's what I always focused on. And so what shifted for me today in this beautiful rainbow, as you described, is recognizing, why is my relationship with results and like that, right? Why am I, so often do I not stop and celebrate, right? What's actually stopping me from doing that? Oh, there's something there. It is a deep worthiness, conversation. Oh, boom, it's actually tied back to my sexual assault and my survivor journey. And so the more I share in my survivor journey, actually, the more and more worthy I start to feel. And then therefore, the more fulfilled I feel in my day-to-day, whatever it is I'm doing, right? I feel comfortable asking for celebration. I feel comfortable asking for support. And it all starts with those breakthroughs each and every moment, doing the work and also sharing my journey. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I'm spending time, with other organizations and survivors of sexual assault. That is, how I'm continuing to heal, and me showing up as healing is also the permission slip for others to acknowledge and evaluate their own healing journey, whether they're just getting started or they're already in it and maybe they even feel like giving up, right? Because they can't do it. What's underneath that, right? Like, what is that? Whether it's usually worthiness conversation in my experience, that you don't deserve. Why don't you feel deserving? What is it? Go there. The only way kind of through going from victim to survivor, in my opinion, is through, right? Whatever that thing is, that feeling, you're not going to get away from it. You don't do something else to get rid of the feeling of feeling like a victim. It is actually going through that and looking at what's underneath and actually understanding and processing those feelings.
Yeah, I love that too. And one thing I always say is, I haven't said it on the show. I've said it in speeches, but I said, survivorship is not, you don't get over being raped or assaulted. You don't get over it. It's like if your grandpa dies and you loved him dearly, no one would say, what are you going to get over thinking about your grandpa? Like, just put that away. You can't get over death and dying. You can't get over abuse and assault. You don't get over it. I like you said, get through it. And I say, you figure out what to do with it and make it into something powerful instead of poisonous, right?
Totally. Yeah. Totally. It's like what you control at the end of the day is like how you respond to it. And so you can choose to collapse in it and then be right that you are a victim, right? Because then you are literally choosing to collapse in it. You are choosing to be a victim. And then you are upset at yourself, right? That you're a victim versus what would living like a survivor, just being a survivor. Like, what is that like mental shift what would that look like, right? And what would you do differently? Or does that mean you would share your story more? Does that mean you would ask questions of others more, right? Like, what is it that you would do differently? And then great, go do that, right? Like, if that's what it looks like, and what's stopping you is your own mindset. At the end of the day, you get to break through that. And if you don't feel like you can, then you get to ask for support, right, from others, because ultimately the only way through is through. And then hearing people, my intent on coming here today is like hearing that, hey, on the other side, like getting through is worth it, right? Like the first time I shared publicly that I was sexually assaulted, right, it was very scary. And I had lots of hesitancy of what will people think and what will my job say and will it be weird at work because now they see me differently, blah, 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 and all these different feelings. And then once I did it, I was like, that wasn't so bad, great. And then the conversations, continued to reaffirm that. And it wasn't all positive. I'll be totally honest. It wasn't all positive. People did reach out to me and they were like, is that actually true? Or are you just saying that because you want
Oh
sympathy?
my God. Ugh.
And it was fascinating to me in that moment. And I got to think about, well, how am I also responsible for this, right? Sure, there's something likely going on in their life that they're unwilling to look at. And so they're taking that negativity and putting it on me. And like, is there a part of me that I was like sourcing that, myself? Of was I not as authentic as I could have been? Was there, something I was resistant to say? Or I changed a word or whatever, right? And that's actually what they're feeding off of, and that's ultimately what I can control at the end of the day. Is like how I show up into each and every conversation. How people are responding to that, like I can't control, and it doesn't matter. Like what I can control is how I show up each and every day, and where I choose to make decisions from.
Yeah, Farhan, I'm gonna hope that our listeners put this on repeat play, like because you've given so many really powerful, strong statements, and I have so very much enjoyed speaking with you and feeling right through, your voice and the screen is the power of where you are going. Still, like I think it's only going to get better and better, and you'll help more and more people. And definitely this interview will be out there for others to be inspired by and dig into. And hopefully, I always say, Farhan, like to our listeners, like to journal along, and hopefully they're scribbling madly or typing furiously to capture some of the like good positive energy and ideas that you have. So maybe, I don't know if we want to talk about butter chicken, but maybe just like any other pieces, like if, like you said, it's not been easy sometimes. And so I guess my last question is, when it does get a little more challenging, what kinds of things it sounds like you have an internal dialogue, like you're good at, asking what's in it for you, like what's up with you, what's your problem? It's not my problem, but is there ever a time where you felt like, oh gosh, this is going to be one of those days. I don't know how to get through this one. Or a moment like that?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. And my personal mantra is like, you can have a bad moment, you can have a bad hour, maybe a couple of hours, but if you have a bad day, that's a choice. Right? That is fundamentally a choice to let it drag on, and on and on. And for me, it is that support and community. Like, who are the people that I know deeply understand what I'm feeling? And most of them are survivors themselves. Whether or not they share their story, they choose to share their story publicly is irrelevant. They understand everything that I'm feeling.
It sounds like Phone a Friend. There was a game show, I think. You got like three little like saving things. So you have the Phone a Friend down pat, sounds like.
That's right. There are lots of friends that I phone. And that I have phone and that I will always continue to phone. And yeah, when I doubt, I know there are people who believe in me sometimes more than I believe myself. And I keep them very, very close to me.
Oh, that's perfect. I think one of our guest friends said that they narrowed down their friend group to like 5 because it was almost like they didn't want to, deal with all the baggage of other people who weren't like reciprocating the flow of baggage, if you will. Everyone's got stuff, and some friends are just draining the life out of you, and they're not able to give much, and that's going to bring you down. So I think she was like, that was my strategy. When I got serious about this, I like pruned all the garden.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you are, at the end of the day, like I firmly believe that you are a representation of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so you choose wisely, right? Because their habits will become your habits. Their mantras and mindsets will become your mantras and mindsets. And so and if you aren't, the one influencing others actively, if you aren't consistently thinking about that, then know that you are being influenced at the end of the day, right? And so it's either one of those kind of two categories. And so, really I totally agree. It's important who you spend your time with, right? And they're givers or takers in the world, and you wanna make sure you're being a giver, and surround yourself with other givers, and just be
Yeah,
conscious of that.
100%. I say givers and takers. I also say creators and consumers. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I think we need to do more creating and less consuming.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
yeah, but that's hello me on this podcast. I love trying to be helpful, and you were delightful as a guest. I can't thank you enough for your courage and your strength and your clarity too, Farhan. Like, I feel like you bring a lot of clarity because it's like you just finished the novel and you're teaching the course. Um, I'm loving where you are to come to the microphone and share, because it feels like it's all fresh and exciting and being put into practice. Like you just finished like a whole semester. So thank you. Thanks for sharing everything. Any last words I mean, you gave us so much, but I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say thank you for creating the space and the platform, right? Like this is important and beautiful work, and we learn from others. Like I myself have benefited so much from hearing other stories, them connecting the dots on, how they recognized, even admitting that they are a survivor, what it means to be a survivor, right? Like the other things that come up around culturally, as an example, masculinity. There's just so much there, and truly, like it is, you can redesign your life. Like if you're wondering how will it ever look different, it can't possibly look different. Like think bigger, or call someone that thinks bigger for you, right? Because it can look different. Like whatever it is that you're feeling or doing today, if that's not what you want to think and feel and do, know that it can look different, and it is up to you at the end of the day, to powerfully either make that request of others for something to change, like you mentioned, your friend shifting their friend group, or finding someone to believe in you if you don't believe yourself. Like whatever that is, like take that first step. And for anybody listening, and parts of my story resonated, if I can be that person for you, please do reach out, and I would love to be that friend that you found as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's just such a delight, and I wish I could go visit Austin and hang out with you and your wife and your dog. I forget the name of the dog, but
Luna.
Yeah, Luna. That's right, Luna. Oh, that's perfect. Take back the night. Hello, we have the moon. Luna, perfect. We should get Luna a little doggy outfit with our logo on it.
She would love
Yeah,
that.
that would be kind of perfect since it does have the moon. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your day. And for our listeners, my goodness, I hope you just took pages and pages of notes today. And I would say I was really, I loved a million things, but I really liked the one where you can be sad for an hour, a minute, a couple hours, but don't ruin the whole day. I mean, then you've got to change it up. I think if you get mired, you set it down and go outside, or do a headstand. I don't care. Eat some dark chocolate.
Whatever.
You just got to get out of your headspace, because it's not helping. It's definitely going to make it not any better. Like sitting in the fire for too long is just not smart. So
Yeah.
we'll get out of the fire.
Yeah, totally. You got to interrupt whatever is going on, right? Like you got to interrupt. Like too much of anything is not great. And so whatever it is, like recognize that. Like you said, yeah. Like my thing is I take a shower. It's really weird, but I take a shower. It clears my head every time. And so sometimes I take multiple showers. And so like whatever you got to do, like whatever works. Experiment with the thing that works and go do it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again, and for being on the show. And for our listeners, continue on the journey. We will be back next week with another guest. Until then, do every good self-care item that you can, and maybe go find out more about the organization. Oh, what do you want to share? What the name of the group was? that you went to, the program?
Oh, yes. It's called Atlas, ATLAS, Atlas Project. And so if like a community-based, kind of forum is helpful for you to kind of do this kind of work, I'd highly recommend Atlas. I'll share the link with Katie. Maybe we can link it in the show notes. And then if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. Happy to share.
Thank you so much. All right. Until the next week, everyone, be well. Together we are thriving and surviving. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Dear Katie. These conversations are never easy, but they're always necessary, and we're so grateful you chose to share this space with us. If something in today's episode stirred something within you, please give yourself what you need. Whether that's rest, support, or just a deep breath, you're not alone. To hear more stories, resources, and survivor-centered conversations, be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to hear from you, so please leave us a review and share your feedback. Your thoughts help us create episodes that resonate with listeners. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.